Jose Munoz, the Chief Performance Officer at Nissan, was chosen by the Sae Foundation for its Leadership of the Year award. Munoz is a big supporter of the Foundation's STEM educational efforts, and in today's show, he talks about his support for STEM as well as the auto industry's move into electrification, autonomy, and mobility services. Coming to you from the Masonic Temple in Detroit, Michigan, this is Autoline This Week. And now, here's your host, John McElroy.
I want to thank you for joining us on Autoline This Week. We've got a very special show going today. We're at the dinner for the Sae Foundation, which gets together every year and awards an executive in the automotive industry for leadership. And this year's award honoree is Jose Munoz from the Nissan Corporation. In fact, specifically the Chief Performance Officer for Nissan. Jose, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, John. It's a real honor for me.
So, Jose, I got to start out by asking you, I've heard of chief executive officers, chief operating officers, chief financial officers. I've never heard of the term chief performance officer. What exactly does that mean?
Well, it means I'm responsible for the operations of Nissan worldwide. So when things go wrong, it's my fault. And when things go right, it's somebody else's credit. So I'm in charge of all the entire globe operations and also the business units like global sales and marketing, like commercial vehicles, and well, everything that has to do with the brands that we have, like Infiniti or Datsun.
So, and performance, you're not talking about the performance of the engines, you're talking about the business performance of the company.
I'm talking about the revenue and the profit of the company, that's right.
There you go. You've just been handed a major promotion as well within Nissan as the chairman of the management committee for China. Will you be relocating to China? How's this going to change what you're doing?
Well, it only changes in the sense that now I spend a little bit more time in China. Actually, if you ask me where are you based, it's difficult to say, but officially I'm based in Tokyo. This is where I live. The company is based in Yokohama, and I travel around the globe every month. So you will see me maybe a few days here, then next week I'll be in Europe. Last week I was in China, the previous week in Japan. That's how it goes.
All right, and I'd like to get into more of that as we get into this interview here. And as was mentioned earlier in the program, you've got a doctorate degree in nuclear engineering. Whatever attracted you to work in the automotive industry in the first place?
It was love. That was the short answer. So I was a very happy engineer working in the nuclear industry and in aerospace. And after commuting for many years from where my family and I lived outside of Madrid to downtown Madrid, I decided that I needed a car. So a good friend of mine said, well, I'm going to recommend you a great dealer. And I said, okay, let's go and visit. And I ended up marrying the owner of the dealership, which is still my wife. We just celebrated a couple of weeks ago our 25th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations. That's great.
So that's how I met it. Love.
And what is it about the automotive industry that attracts you?
Well, everything. I mean, the moment you get into this industry, you get attracted. Because this is I would say, the most advanced industry in the world. You can see today with the evolution of the electric vehicles, connected vehicles, autonomous driving, the conjunction of all the most advanced technologies in a mass-produced vehicle is quite a big challenge. And you think about it, a lot of companies are able to develop prototypes or a short number of units of certain product. But when you're talking about producing millions of vehicles that all have to be perfect, and they assemble so many different technologies from so many different suppliers, it's a great challenge, and you have to be constantly updated. This is a big challenge and something that I really love.
The challenge is what really attracts you to it. Let's talk a little bit about the Sae Foundation. As you know, it's honoring you for your leadership in the automotive industry and supporting their educational programs, The World in Motion and the Collegiate Design Series. What's your attraction to this? Why are you involved?
Well, when I see what the Sae Foundation is doing, and more importantly, when you interact with the kids, and then you see the excitement, how they get in touch with the engineering in a pragmatic way, not in a theoretical way, which sometimes you go through when you are in some schools. This is really very encouraging, and I can tell you that when I have had the chance to interact with the kids here today and other days previously in some schools, this really brings you back to your roots, and then you realize you're doing something good for the society, for these kids. And one of my most rewarding moments, apart from seeing my best friends here with us tonight and with you, was when one of the parents of one of these kids came to say thank you for what your company is doing for my kid. And I think this is really very, very nice. And I'm very happy that our company has been a sponsor for more than 10 years now, more than $2.5 million. And I think this tells a lot about Nissan.
It does. The auto industry, though, as you know, faces a critical shortage of skilled talent at all levels right now. What do you think the industry needs to do to bring new talent in?
Well, I think all we need to do is to try to show very clearly to the entire world all the technologies that the automotive industry is bringing. So you're talking about telecommunications, you're talking about mechanical engineer, you're talking about new propulsion like electric vehicles, or in the future probably fuel cells, etc. We're talking about new materials, composite materials, aluminum, cobalt for the batteries, so lithium. It's so many things that allow a lot of people coming from different areas of science to work together. So I think when you present this way, I think that's very attractive. The other way to put it is by showing the benefit for the customer. The possibility that anyone, thanks to our industry, have today with the new technologies to move from A to B, not only by driving yourself, but maybe perhaps by being driven autonomously, or by doing something else in the vehicle. So all these things in your head, I think we are making a revolution, not only in the industry, but in the way we're living.
Jose, we're very aware of the shortage that's in the United States. You travel all around the world. Is this a global problem?
Well, I would say almost yes, but I would say probably there is more of a problem here than in other countries. What we need to do is to promote and to identify new ways to bring engineering into our lives. A little bit when you talk to kids or some maybe all the generations, they see engineering like it's very tough, you need to study very hard, etc., etc. But in reality, when you get to understand the added value that you bring to the society, then it does not become a job. So it's your passion, it's you really love, it's a way of living. And I think that that's the way we need to come across.
I would imagine today, with so much going on from a technological standpoint, electrification, autonomy, mobility services, that it's going to be more appealing to a younger generation than how they might have perceived the industry in the past.
Well, absolutely. I mean, nowadays, the vehicles are devices, are mobile devices. There's been a revolution these days, and then I think it's a similar revolution to the one we saw when the older telephones that had a cable, or even the Motorola ones, were just simply tools to communicate with each other, versus today's phones, which are little computers that you have with you. So I think a vehicle today has got so much in it in terms of technology, allows you to do so much in it, including moving from one place to another, that I think you got the solution to your problem. So this is really a device, it's your personal device.
I'd like to ask you specifically some of these technologies and get your viewpoints on it. And let's start with electrification. Mm-hmm. Nissan's made a very big commitment to it. Right now, the market's small, but how do you see it developing over time?
Well, first of all, I think we need to give credit to our chairman of the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi Alliance, Carlos Ghosn, because he was a visionary. And when a lot of people were making projections and talking about it, etc., he just did it. He just did it. And about 10 years ago, he put in the market the first full electric vehicle, mass market produced, so-called Leaf. Leaf is the #1 sold electric vehicle in the world with more than 250,000, and the Alliance is the #1 corporation in the world selling pure electric vehicles, more than 500,000. It's not all the brands that have a lot of fashionable activities, etc. It's the Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi Alliance. So we were really pioneers, and we have changed the way the business goes. So you really have to be bold to invest 4 billion euro in a technology that most people don't believe in. You really think this is it, and you're going to do it, and then convince your stakeholders and your employees and everybody else and get it done. And it was the right solution. Now nobody argues that this is the right today solution. People think about maybe in 20 years, 25 years from now, maybe the fuel cells will be the right technology. But today, electrification is the right one. Now, as you said, the level of introduction of electrification is different by country. But when you really see the combination of the regulation that is happening everywhere, and particularly in the main markets. Now the #1 market in the world, as we know, with about 28 million cars, is China. And when you go to China, you realize the problems that they have in terms of the environment. And you see that they've changed the regulation, and they are promoting the EV technology. And even you see that they've changed completely the legal environment in the sense that, as you know, before, it was mandatory to have a joint venture partner to operate in China. But for electric vehicles, they've decided that it is not anymore needed. You realize that the potential is huge. We have presented just a few weeks ago in Beijing Motor Show our strategy. We call it the 111 within the MOVE 2022 midterm plan, which is the global plan. And the Chinese strategy is about being leaders in electrification. 20 out of 40 cars that we're going to introduce from now through to 2022 are going to be electrified, either pure EV or what we call e-power, which is a technology which has allowed Nissan to become leader in the #1 segment in Japan for the first time ever with the Note e-power. So it's happening everywhere, but then you have another element, not only the regulation, which is the driving pleasure. When you drive electric vehicle, you realize it is fun. So the equivalent to the torque, the acceleration, the driving dynamics, they're different, they're more exciting, and that's why we also decided to go and compete in the so-called Formula E. So starting this season. So I think it's a given. We're going to see a significant demand. Many OEMs, I would say all OEMs, have announced their plans. There are some OEMs who have already made commitments on the amounts of lithium that they're going to buy to ensure they have supply for the future, etc.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The driving experience in an electric car is terrific, very pleasant.
I mean, you cannot believe it. I mean, you get into a Leaf, and then you think you're in a Formula 1 car.
We're seeing a lot of tech companies, startups, and even a lot of automakers investing in autonomous cars. How do you think that's going to develop?
I think that this is also an activity and an area of the technology which is going to develop. And then whilst in the electric vehicle technology, we are having I would say, the regulator as the #1 driver. When it comes to autonomous, it is purely the added value to the consumer. When you think about it, when you are in any of the big cities in the US or outside, and you think that you have to put all the attention to really drive. And if you have one of these technologies, you have the ability to decide if you want to drive and put all the attention, all your senses on the driving experience, or you want to read, or you want to send an email, or you want to do something else. I think you realize that this is a technology which is going to be very, very rooted in the consumption and in the automotive industry. There are some voices that say, because there's been one accident or an incident, that this is not going to be, sustainable because of those accidents. But when you look at it, out of the, I think, about 1.4 million accidents that you have on a given year, about 90% of those are driven by human errors. So when you have machines driving the vehicle, the number of fatalities, the number of accidents is going to be significantly reduced. That's why in our company, Nissan, we have zero fatality and zero emissions as two of the key pillars of our plan.
Mm-hmm. Some people say autonomous cars are a long way away. Others say, no, it's a whole lot sooner than you think. What do you think?
Well, I think they're really sooner than we think. And I think that as everything, we're going to see different stages of introduction. Today, on the road, we already have vehicles which have certain level of autonomous driving capabilities. You know, when you go into what we call the ProPilot. Nissan, as we have been pioneers on electrification, we are pioneers on also autonomous driving and what we call the ProPilot Assist, which is called in other countries ProPilot. We've put in the market more than 70,000 of those vehicles with technology. For example, in Japan with the Serena ProPilot, and here in the States we've launched with the current generation Rogue and also with the newly launched Leaf. So it's on the road. Now, if you go into any of the prototypes that we have around Silicon Valley, where we have our R&D center for this type of technology, you realize the car is able to do way more than what we are selling today. So after the proper testing and after the regulation, we're ready to go in multi-lane or even in city driving, etc.
Mm-hmm. Ride sharing, car sharing, on-demand shuttles, this whole move to mobility services looks like it could be very disruptive to the automotive industry. Some are even talking about maybe people will give up owning cars. How do you see it? Well,
the way we see it is that obviously if you go into other industries, you go, for example, into housing, hotel, etc. A little bit what is happening in our industry in automotive is things that have happened for many, many, many years, and we've seen as very natural in other industries. You own a house, right? And some people own a second house for vacation. Others, then they want to go to a third place and they go to a hotel. And then when they go to work, they go to another hotel, or they share a house with some of the apps and the services that you can find there. In terms of the vehicles, it's exactly the same concept. So you may own a car here if you're from Detroit, but then you may need shared services when you go down to Nashville, where we have our headquarters. And still, when you go on vacation, you want to have a different type of service. So I think it's natural. We don't see this as something which is going to prevent the ownership. It's going to change the industry, but we need to be there. We believe when you do the numbers, this is a great business. It's an even better business opportunity, and still producing good quality cars at good competitive cost with the best technology is going to be the door to make a lot of money in these businesses. We've created a business unit within the Alliance, which is meant to develop all these services, and we're very excited to see that there are many opportunities in main markets, namely the US, but also in China.
Do you think that people might give up their ownership of cars, not buy cars, and buy their mobility instead on an as-needed basis?
Some people may do that, and some others may have a combination, as mentioned. So I say, well, I want to have my car where I live to go to work. I want to have the rights to utilize the shared services in a third place when I'm traveling, for example. So why not? And maybe some people will decide, I don't need a car anymore, but it depends on how you use it. For example, I see the car is something which is very personal. If I take the similarity of the car with my phone, I want to own my phone. I could maybe share it with somebody else, but I got my pictures, my data, I don't want to share it with anybody else. Yet when I go to another country, I get a spare phone because I want to be connected, but it's not mine. So I see many reasons why we can still have the traditional ownership, the shared mobility, etc.
So as we move into this world of electrified, autonomous, connected, shared, you touched on Nissan's preparing for it. Can you give us a little bit more specifics?
Well, in our case, we have presented our current midterm plan, so-called MOVE 2022. And then within that plan, being a technology leader, it is a key foundation of the company. In that sense, we have defined three key pillars, so the electrification, autonomous driving, and connectivity, and we are working with a lot of confidence on all these three levers. And I would like to say that the Leaf, which was the first EV, is the one that is bringing all that in once. Is our, I would say, flagship in terms of bringing all the technology. You're going to see many more EV cars developed by our company and by the Alliance that are going to bring all these elements together. So we want to be leaders in mobility. We've also created within the Alliance this company to take advantage of the shared mobility services. So I think we are really well prepared. We have a good strategy, very solid. We've shown, we've been pioneers. We are still pioneers on electric vehicles. We want to be pioneers also on autonomous driving and in connected vehicles.
How do you see this developing on a global basis? Europe, North America, or the Americas, Asia? Do you see it sort of evolving at the same rate, or will it be different?
Well, my perception is the US started first, but the Chinese are getting much faster. They are very fast on getting new concepts. The Chinese consumer is very eager to get new stuff. And then to your point about the shared mobility, if you go to Beijing or you go to Shanghai, you will see that these guys have been practicing for years already with bikes. So everybody is riding a bicycle, and then the bicycles that they utilize, they are utilized by maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They don't need to drop them off in a particular place. They just drop them wherever they like. They just grab them wherever they like. They pay peanuts with an app that they have in their phone. So this is already existing. They embrace the new concept, the new technology, and they need it. So, and I think that, as you know now, Europe is going through the Dieselgate type of situation that will define if Europe is going to be also part of the future of the automotive industry or not, but they will have to make strong decisions there. So definitely, also the Chinese government has taken very clear stance in terms of supporting EV technology, and I think this is demonstrating that they're really betting for it, supporting companies, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say US was first, but now China is ahead, US is number 2, and we'll see Europe.
Very interesting. You travel a lot.
Yep.
In fact, you told me before we got on here, you just got back from China. I don't know how you're holding up with the jet lag. Talk a little bit about that. How do you deal with that? What advice do you have for others who might want to aspire to be a top-level executive?
Well, I've realized that you know, this is one of the key characteristics or features if you really want to be a global executive, because you need to cope with sleeping very little, and then yet being able to have clear ideas, etc. I call it to my colleagues, sleeping fast. It's one of my characteristics. I sleep fast. And the faster I sleep, the faster I sleep. So I really think so. So the way to do it is you need to be extremely motivated on what you're doing, because it's tough. When you come from China, you want to go to sleep and you don't want to sleep, or you cannot, and you don't want to take anything weird, you know. So you have to do it by motivation. I got to say my trick is very simple. 1 glass of red wine, and I sleep like a baby.
I like that. Good advice. So take us out a bit into the future, your crystal ball of the automotive industry, 20, 30 years. What keeps you motivated looking towards the future, and how do you see it?
Well, I think that when you go to countries that people don't have the means to move from one place to another, or you see that they are not safe, and you see that bringing affordable, good quality mobility services or devices, you are going to improve the quality of life of these people, I think you feel really good. And when you look at the motorization ratio of different countries, there are factors of up to 10. So there are countries that, if you did the math, they have the ability to triple or quadruple or even more the number of cars that they have in those countries. And those people, they really need it to work, they really need it to go to get food, to go get water, etc. So I think this is a real good motivation, and it's something that I believe together with the support of foundations like SAE, we're going to help to make a better world for the people.
So you sound fairly optimistic about the future of the automotive industry.
I'm very much optimistic because what I see is that every year the industry is growing and growing. And then again, when you compare the motorization ratios, you realize that there is a huge opportunity in entire continents. So we can see more and more opportunity in countries that are getting a little bit more and more mature. And then you see in countries which are more mature, like the United States, that new services arise. So the opportunity is there, and both opportunities are good opportunities for business.
So for anybody who's young and looking at this show, there's going to be a lot of potential for them if they get involved in STEM education.
I have no doubts about it. And then, I mean, if you come and you don't like it, I guarantee you you're going to be able to work in any other industry in the world because you are working with all the technologies. But I think the automotive industry is like a black hole, you know. Everybody that is in the industry sort of enjoys, but also complains. It's a lot of work, a lot of pressure with the margins, etc., but nobody leaves. So this is like a black hole. So.
Very good. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up. But Jose Munoz, I got to say, congratulations for being recognized for your leadership in the automotive industry, for your contribution to getting younger people involved in STEM education in both the high school and the collegiate level. I think it's terrific. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jose Munoz, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And of course, for the television audience, I want to thank all of you for having tuned in.
Thank you very much. Thank you.